Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Heather and Daniel. We're back again for another book review. And for this special book review, it's going to be Heartstoppers by Alice Oseman. Yay! This book obviously is so cute. It came out as a graphic novel. There's a webtoon. There's now the show on Netflix. There's books. There's everything you can think of. This has Heartstoppers has won the hearts of pretty much everybody.
Yes.
So I actually didn't know about it until Daniel told me about it. He showed me, and I read all the graphic novels after he told me about it, and then from there it just blew up, and then we watched the show and did everything like that. So Daniel, let me know if I guess you can go ahead and give a little synopsis or blurb about the graphic novel and the everything.
Okay. It's about two boys, two young boys. They're in well, I guess junior year, you would say it. They're like in year 11 or year 12, whatever works for the, over there over the pond, like they say. And it's their story of falling in love. And yeah, and it also centers around their friends and just their, open queerness lives.
Nice. So yeah, I think this is one of these super adorable teen romance stories, and it just happens to be about two young gay men, and it is just really cute. The story is so sweet, and everything about it I think was done really well. And then on top of that, the show gave it that extra something that it needed missing from the graphic novels, at least for me. So in total, the whole storyline I think for me is definitely like a 4.5, even a 5 if I could give it that.
Yes, exactly. I give everything like five, five, five. Like it's just so amazing. If you want, like the way I would categorize everything is like, I feel like the TV show, even for its first season, is more well-rounded with the side characters. They give them more screen time to blossom and you get to know them more. While the not claustrophobic, that's like the wrong word for the graphic novel, but the graphic novel is more cozy. It's just about the boys, really. The side characters are there, but they're not as center as the TV show, a different medium, can do. And then the novels are the most separated. So I would go with either the TV show ultimately or the graphic novel just as tied if you wanted a more centered story.
Yeah, because for me, like, I know that we've talked about this, but I struggled with the novel version of it. Not even for any reason. I still like the story, but it was just, it didn't hit as well as the graphic novel and
Now,
as the show.
granted, yeah, it's because the at least the novels and novellas, they're prior to everything else.
Hmm.
So she was
Hmm.
still getting, I guess, used to the characters Alice Oseman. So there is that slight disconnect.
Yeah. I mean, also, I think my age definitely disconnected me just
Well,
a bit.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because I'm here, you read about these kids and it's cute and it's a lovely story. And, but then, when you get into the novels, I feel like you go back into that like stereotypical high school relationship. And, for me, I'm like kind
Yeah,
of done with that part already. But
exactly.
it
But
doesn't
the
take
good,
away the cuteness of it. It's so sweet, and
yeah,
I think that if you're a young person reading these books, or if you're still in high school, then they're good. They still have a good kind of like
yeah,
theme to them. They have a good idea of
yeah.
how you can handle your relationships when these things occur.
Yeah. And then the way I could add to that is that at least as, a queer person myself, sadly, it's one of the first, it's not the first, but it kind of is the first like positive all around cutest series that doesn't deal with over sexualized drugs, like all those things, dying at the end or one of the characters, or coming out as really nasty. It's the first all around positive happiness, just draining actual heart stopping. So that's why, at least for me and my fascination, I got obsessed because unfortunately for me, it was my first young adult. I didn't have this
Yeah.
at all as a kid.
Right.
I did not have this at all. So therefore it like felt nostalgic and heartbreaking and everything at once. So I know I felt for the series hard, and it catapulted so many things for me. Like now I'm like reading 20 bucks a month. Like I've gone insane, and you're a testament to my insanity. But yeah, so that's one thing I would add on, at least for queer use. This is amazing. It's
Yeah.
it's top tier.
No, definitely. It has a lot of good themes. It has a lot of good elements, a lot of positive elements. So I think it's definitely something that the
Exactly.
queer community needs for sure, especially young boys, I think,
Yeah.
more than anything. But it
Mhm.
also has, lesbian characters, that you have your two female characters.
Exactly.
It has
It's all the
transgender
leathers.
characters. Yeah. All right. So we were talking about how it kind of runs the gamut, right? You have all of these different queer identities, and it talks about a lot of that in the book, which I thought was really cool. Or throughout the whole thing, right? Like through all the mediums, because it has a lot of mediums. I was gonna say also that I really liked how they handled Nick and his bisexuality. I really like how
Yes.
they didn't
It's
they
every
didn't
leather.
yeah. I like that they didn't shy away from his bisexuality though, because I feel like for some reason bisexuality tends to be a little bit like off to the side. So I kind of like that he was, he confronted the side of himself that he didn't realize, and I think they handled it really well. In fact, I think that's one of the scenes, especially in the show, that really like made me like tear up, because like seeing him struggle with who he was, and I think we've all, especially like any of us who maybe are, in any realm of queer, like we've all done the thing where we looked it up on Google and we did the test, to see am I this person, should I, be
Yeah.
concerned, or what should I think about, or what does this mean about me, so it was really nice to see it on screen in such a positive light, where he's just so confused, he's
Yeah.
unsure, he's Googling it, he's doing quizzes, and I think it handled that really well and really fun. So that was an interesting, add on to everything as well.
Yeah. And it could have gone into the power fantasy of it all, but it didn't. It doesn't go into them. It makes Nick real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I highly appreciate, especially that we're going to get later on in the series. That's where I think maybe season 1 of the show could falter slightly, but it's because they need to continue. Because at least in the books, in the graphic novels, I mean, you could see why Nick fell for Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that he was watching Charlie be outed and how brave he was. So the show hasn't touched on that yet on prior to meeting Charlie, but I know they'll get there. I know they'll do it justice.
They touched on it a little bit, especially in that scene where it's kind of like a corridor, and you see like Charlie kind of crying in the background. He's kind of sad, and he's like, "Why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you?" I think Nick battled with having to like. I think he battled with it obviously because he was reminded of the other boy that was using Charlie a little bit. I forget his name. Do you remember his name? Ben. So I think like obviously Nick felt a little bit like he was like Ben, because he was having Charlie hide who he was. He was having Charlie pretend like nothing was going on, and then coming to terms with what he was doing to Charlie as well as to himself and everything like that. So it does touch on it just a tad, but yeah, I do hope they flesh it out a little bit more.
Flesh it out a little bit more, yeah.
I do really I agree with you on the side characters though. I think that's what really is like cool about the show. That like you really get to see them, because I think obviously in the graphic novel you get tidbits, right? You hear conversations, text messages, and like that, so you kind of get an idea. But like the show really starts it kind of from the beginning, and then watching it like blossom is really cute and really sweet.
Yeah, and then another great thing the show does that I can highly praise, because I freaking love it and I have it on repeat, is the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my god, constant repeat. It's just all comes together really, really awesome, and seeing it visually like stimulating your eyes from like how it comes to life in film right in front of you. It's like, because the graphic novel is very cozy, but now you could put certain songs to scenes or certain cinematography to scenes. And then I would say, and you would probably agree with me, Heather, that most of the graphic novel, at least the first two, it's pretty much adapted well onto the show. You get pretty much everything. Maybe, a little scene cut here and there, but you really get like same dialogue, same wording, same angles as the graphic novel as well. Like it served as a
they do
great
it justice.
skeletal purpose. Yeah, and the
they
show
do it justice
just
for sure.
rockets off after that.
Yeah,
But
they do. The show does a really good job of taking the graphic novel and making it live action and showing it like for what it was. It definitely does that really well. I think the other thing that I enjoyed was the handling of like the coming out to the parents, coming out to like, obviously Charlie already, had come out. That was the whole
prior.
He was already out. And then, having Nick like tell his family how that was handled, how some of it was good, but obviously it's not always great. And, showing those two sides to that and everything like that was really sweet. I would personally like to see more of like the other kids' families and how everybody else handled everything, parent wise and stuff. I think that would be nice, but hopefully that's something that the show does.
Like an origin to Elle.
Exactly, like to a lot of people.
I think they're gonna. I think they'll introduce that at least with season 2 or 3. Like in one of the comics that are coming out in October, which is the Heartstopper yearbook, we're gonna get in graphic novel format. We're gonna get the origins of how Darcy and Elle met. So they'll probably incorporate. They'll probably incorporate that to the show as well. I think another thing that's pretty awesome about Heartstopper is that it has that duality of like satisfying multiple fan bases. The way I could explain it, well, why do they both have to come out? There's one character that's already out, one character that's not. Right. Well, why do they have to have so much positive in the world and not the negative? There's the positive and then there's the negative. Right. Then there's also I won't like to say the bad gay, but like there's the Ben, which is like the negative infestation of closeted homosexuality. Right. And then you have the bigot on the other side who's not gay, which is like the Harry, who's like the conflict, but it's never overdone or super dramatized. Exactly. One thing I really love, and I don't know if it's like the new generation or just where we're moving forward now with stories, is that characters are actually communicating their feelings. There's no like super misunderstanding. That's one thing you hate about the novels. Yes. That there's constant miscommunication. It's like, just talk to each other.
It's just that trope. I know I've told you this before, but that trope just irritates me. I hate the misunderstanding trope because it's like, if you guys would just take a second to talk to each other, none of this will happen. Yeah. But it's like you said, I do understand that. Like, obviously, they're so young. This is what we do when we're young. We're still learning to communicate with Sterling, but that's where kind of for me, as obviously I'm an old lady already compared to these kids. So for me,
we're saying this and we're not even that old. No, I refuse.
But for me, it's just it doesn't hit because I'm just yelling at the book like, Charlie, just tell him that you don't want him to leave or that you're worried if he leaves. Just tell him. But it is definitely something that it's a fallback trope that for me it just I was like, I've already read enough that they're established that for me that extra I didn't need it, I guess. So that's where I stand with that. But if the way that it handled it though, I think is important because obviously the youth needs to learn how to communicate, how it's important if you hold things back that you don't get to come across telling how you feel, and so the other person never knows. And I think that's a good thing that obviously we always talk about that trope because of that, because you have to communicate. It's essential to having a good relationship with anyone, with your friends, your family, your significant other. If you communicate, so even if I didn't like it personally, the theme, the idea behind it, I think is obviously important and definitely suits a younger crowd more than me as an oldie.
Exactly. But the thing is also later on in the series, it doesn't get darker as in the sense of like super dark, but it does delve into mental illness, which I think is another subject we could talk about with the series, at least with the graphic novels and the show. It handles mental illness, not perfect, but
Not perfect, but
close
dude,
to.
you know what? I think I've told you this before. Let me just gush about it for a second. I absolutely loved how Nick was made to handle Charlie's mental illness, where it showed that you don't have to take on your partner's problems. You can't. Right?
Yes, that
And I love that. And then I think it was the mom that had told
the
him,
mom,
like, you
the
have to
lesson,
just, this
yeah,
is him. You can be there for him. You can, help him along as best as you can, but this is his struggle, his problem. You
journey.
can't give up your peace and your state of mind because he's going through something that he needs to handle. And I thought that was so important, and it's such an important message for the youth to know, and any youth, queer or non-queer. You cannot take on your partner's problems. You can't take on anyone's problems. Now your family, now your friends, you can be there for them, you can listen to them, you can have, give them a shoulder to cry on, but essentially if they don't pick themselves up, they're not going to do well, because they need to be
Yeah,
able to lift themselves up. And I thought that was handled so great in the graphic novels, and I'm excited to
yes.
see that play
See
out
it in the
in the
show.
show.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. It is,
incredibly
and I
excited.
love it that they have the seeds of foreshadowing on the
Mm-hmm.
show. Like you
Yes,
start noticing it. Us as like
yes,
fans, we
as the
know we're like,
fans, right?
oh
He's not
yeah, like Charlie,
eating, or he
he's
said,
not
no, I don't
eating.
want to eat right now, or I'm
Yeah,
not very
yeah,
hungry. Like, you start to notice
yeah.
it. Yeah.
You start noticing the little
So
seeds of
I hope
foreshadowing.
they handle it the same way, because I know sometimes shows tend to be a little dramatic. So, because I feel like in
Yeah,
the graphic novels it was brought up and it was talked about, but it wasn't so dramatic that you felt bad for Nick. In fact, I felt, for me, it was empowering. Like, you could see Nick saying, like, agreeing with his mom, and it playing out that way, that yeah, he does need to do this on his own. He needs to ask for help, because I cannot do that for him. So I really hope that plays out on the
yeah.
show.
That's where the show has to like be careful going forward. The graphic novel does it really, really well, but there could be more to be done,
Mm-hmm.
like to show things. Maybe they could like, delve deep into when Charlie does go visit, and gets better and stuff like that. Not delve into the territory and make it like Pretty Little Liars where he's like in a mental institution or like the cliches of that. No.
I would say, like, kind of like in the realm of My Mad Fat Diary. You remember that
Yes.
show where she went to the hospital, and you kind of see her talk to her therapist, and you kind of see her talk to the little young girl that has the same disorder that Charlie has, where she doesn't eat, she's
Yeah.
anorexic. So kind of in that realm where you see into it a little bit, and you can see his progression into getting better. I think that would be really nice.
Yeah, because like talking about the next journey and like season 2 of Heartstopper and everything, I'm going to admit it's my favorite book. Now I'm going to preface this with, and Heather's testament to like a lot of my likes. Like she knows my favorite Harry Potter book is Goblet of Fire because it's the extravagance of like having something new and the Triwizard Tournament and everything. So with Heartstopper, the next season they go to Paris. So it's just I'm noticing a pattern, and as I'm reading series and books and all of that, like my favorite books in a series is when they go somewhere outside their comfort zone or they travel somewhere. I
Yeah.
think it just revitalizes like the whole. So like next season is going to be pretty awesome, but they have to handle both things well
Yeah.
in that respect. And then I wanted to jump a little bit, like at least with the talking about uh the difference in the mediums of Heartstopper. I could
Mm-hmm.
talk a little bit about the books. So the books are these are the novellas, which is This Winter and Nick and Charlie. You read Nick and Charlie,
Mm-hmm.
so
Kind of.
kind of. And then Solitaire is where it all began, which is Alice Oseman's first book, which she wrote at 19. She
Nice.
published at 19. I'm
That's
like,
awesome.
that girl, get shit done. But yeah, how you call it here is like where Nick and Charlie first appear. And here it's where it's not sensationalized. I don't like to say that, but it's like they introduce like Charlie like cutting himself, and like they go into those deep like this is like the rated R version of the characters. Like they curse a lot. Like Nick is a little more foul in this one. You know, he is a rugby player and everything, so he's a little bit more adventurously fun. Not fun, I don't like to say that, but you know, but she got the rhythm of writing the characters, so then when they finally got to Heartstoppers is where, you know, she found the rhythm with the characters and she got to write them, you know, much more with purpose and much more three-dimensional as well. That's one thing that we could say that's different from the graphic novels and the TV show as well, because Nick does have a little bit of anger in him that they touch upon in the graphic novel, I think a little bit more well. Like he does like curse and everything in the graphic novel, while the show, I do like it because Alice Oseman and the director as well, they wanted the show to also be like accessible to, like, you know, all families, and also maybe school lessons and stuff like that. So they, you know, that was the omission they decided to have with at least Nick, not having him like curse and stuff like that or be too violent or anything. So, you know, that is one difference from the graphic novel. He's not like super violent or anything, but you know, there's more to the hairy scene and stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, so that's just a little bit of talking a little bit about the difference of anything. Like you really didn't enjoy the Nick and Charlie novella. Like
it's not so much that I didn't enjoy it. It's just that for me, like I said, I think I came at it like too late because I was already established with their relationship and how they handled things in the graphic novels and in the show. I feel like that Nick and Charlie was kind of like backwards for me because it felt like before, like this, that wishy-washy kind of will they won't they stuff that's already kind of like established, you know, it's kind of already happened. So for me,
and they were ready to meet
if you haven't read the books, like I would say, I mean, if you haven't like read anything, I would say start with those. Maybe like if I had started out with those, I probably would have, it would have been a different scenario for me. But because it's already like I established them as who they were from the show and from the graphic novel, I think that's just where it fell for me. So I mean, it wasn't bad or anything. Like I said, it was just not. It wasn't. It didn't hold my interest enough to want to keep reading.
Yeah, the best way I could say it, it's not that it's an alternate universe or anything. It's all within the same timeline and everything. But at least the main explanation I give with Solitaire is that it is through the eyes of Tori, Charlie's sister. So it's the characters, how she sees them.
I love her.
Yeah, so it's still loyal. It's still loyal, but since she is an older, more like dark character, like at least thinking wise, you know, the characters still match their counterparts in Heartstopper. It's just they're a little bit more extreme.
Okay.
Yeah, and then with the Nick and Charlie, the only thing I could like, you know, put myself at as another excuse as to why they're acting like that is just like, you know, you kind of see it from a standpoint of like Charlie's gonna lose Nick to university, like, and this was the only stable relationship he had after Ben, the stupidity of Ben and the homophobia internalized in there. So like, you know, I guess it was like a, you know, Charlie reverting back to season 1 Charlie, but just because he's scared, because he's ultimately scared of change. So it's still everything, every medium still fits and complements each other. But you know, there is a self-awareness, and you as a reader or consumer, like there is slight differences, and there could be like little, you know, gaps here of loopholes, but you could still put it all together. Just go in with an open mind and be like, okay, the novels are pre-Heartstopper.
Yeah.
So that's the best, I mean, but I still do enjoy all of them.
Right.
And I like Tori. I would recommend Solitaire if you really enjoy Tori, you know, because it's all her point of view.
Yeah, I do like Tori. Tori reminded me a little bit of like a Daria.
Right, exactly.
I liked her. I liked her character in the show. In fact, you know, it's kind of cool talking about Tori being the main focus of Solitaire, because I do kind of like I would have liked to see Tori also fleshed out a little bit more, but I like her as she is as well. It's kind of like this,
Yeah, and
like
then
she's kind
the
of like Charlie's conscience in the background, just kind of sharing little tidbits
yeah,
throughout like the
that's a
graphic
that's a
novel.
that's another separation of the Solitaire universe and in the Heartstopper universe, even though they're in the same universe,
Hmm.
is that at least with Solitaire, Nick and Charlie and everything, they were written in our era.
Mm,
So there, when we were high school students, so the internet was still there, but it was like live journal, blogging and MySpace and stuff like that. While Heartstopper just like updates it, like shifts it, and then it's more like they're texting each other way more. Even though in Solitaire it's still text and stuff like that, but
yeah,
it's not like how now we could send memes and stuff like that, picture text, and so that's another slight difference with the books and the Heartstopper show, you know.
right. So overall,
Yeah.
how would you say a reader coming into this completely new, how do you think that they should read the whole thing, like books, graphic novel, show?
To me,
What
to be
sequence should they take?
yeah, to be absolutely honest, you don't have to read Solitaire, or you don't have to read, Nick and Charlie or This Winter. I would just start with Heartstopper and have that context and stuff like that. It's funny because it's the first one I say work backwards. Work backwards. And then, like, it's not that Alice Oseman has like a book, cinematic book universe, but like certain characters do appear in other books or are mentioned in other books. So like it's just fun. She has like Easter eggs, and she has fun with her books and her creations, and it's kind of awesome. So it's just have fun, but ultimately it's having an open mind, just knowing you need a little bit of a preface to it, but it's not that big of a deal, at least. But ultimately, Heartstopper is like I don't like to say the magnum opus, because I haven't read Radio Silence, Loveless, or I Was Born for This, so I haven't read those yet.
Okay.
So yeah, so like at least Heartstopper is where I would say just start. You could start there. Like the graphic novels are just so good, and then you could do them like in a whole night's, like Saturday or Sunday afternoon, read all 4 volumes and stuff like that. And then also, like, which a lot of people don't know, a lot of the graphic novels are free online.
Hmm.
Like they're in Webtoon or Patreon and stuff like that. You could find legally like all the graphic novels you could read, because it started as that first, and then it went to Kickstarter to have it like branch out and become, and look where it's now, just a hit Netflix series.
Right.
But yeah, because you fell in love. You started backwards. You did the graphic novels, and we all did. Yeah, we all did. So we started with the graphic novels, and yeah.
Yeah.
Would say skip the book, like you didn't just really.
I just, for me, I don't think I didn't add anything to me that I felt like I was missing. But obviously, I don't have that connection that, maybe an actual queer youth would have to it. So I think that for
Yeah,
me, it's just my viewpoint, obviously, my perspective. I already know, I know Nick and Charlie as they are, right, from the graphic novels and the show. So it didn't really take away and it didn't add anything for me. So it wasn't absolutely necessary to read it. But I mean, like I said, I don't
yeah,
have that connection, so maybe other people like, like you would enjoy all of the parts of it. So that's why I was asking, how you would read it. If you could
yeah,
start over, how you would read it. But I mean, in the end,
yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Same order again. Yeah, same
Yeah.
order
So,
again.
but yeah, so the show, the whole entire like universe, right? Whatever medium you decide to take it in is, it's really sweet. I mean,
Yeah,
it's such a
if you
sweet
could
story.
only take one, ultimately, and I don't like to say sadly, but it is the TV show, just because it fleshes out and elaborates the side characters, while
Right.
the graphic novel is more intimate with Nick and Charlie.
Right.
That's so, yeah, that's the only like thing I would like to throw in really quick. Like if you could only do one, but it feels like the lazy route because it's more visual and
Right.
stuff like that. But ultimately, it does flesh out the side characters more. So
Yeah.
I ended up loving the show, like you know, but the thing is, the show needs to continue because the graphic novel is already in volume 4. So like, we just need to see how it continues handling it.
Okay.
But at least for the first adaptions, the books, the show is slightly superior.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not sure. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about in regards to the books? Because I can't think of any other topics other than it was good.
Yeah, just that it was great. Yeah.
All right. So yeah. So again, the whole Heartstopper's little universe is super sweet. It's so nice. It's such a refreshing viewpoint on being a teenager, going through high school, meeting your first love. Like it's just so nice, and honestly, you can see why it blew up because it was done so well. She
Yes.
did a
Oh
great
my
job with the
God.
characters. Everybody had dimension to them. They were all just characters that you could see yourself in them, whatever your age, whatever your identity, whatever you feel, you could see yourself in these characters. They were so wholesome. They were just your average kids going through first love, and all of it was just done so well and so nicely. And yeah, I'm excited for, you know, more seasons to come for the show, and, you know, hopefully more volumes from the graphic novels.
Yeah.
So that'll be that's going to be exciting.
It is. It's going to be super exciting. And then the funny thing is that now, because we're doing this not late, we're doing this like, we're actually doing it on the 3-month anniversary of when the show premiered.
Right.
But I think it's fun to mention as well, like, you know, during that time, I was like I could admit, I was like in a slight slump depression with the show, because since it was like the first wholesome, first beautiful queer like package, like, you know, you could say maybe in future site our site will change on it and be like, it's too romanticizing, and it'll become like our straight counterparts that are like, oh my God, this is just sugary shit. Like, it's just so positive that it's like, no. But it's just, at least, you know, I don't want to deny that part of like what Heartstoppers meant to a lot of us, and when we first saw it, and that depression of how older, you know, queer family members saw it. And then yeah, just I wanted to mention that, because now that I've calmed down and stuff like that, I can like, okay, it's just a show. It's just a graphic novel, but I still treasure it and I still love it. But now I can like see it objectively, and, you know, but it's still super important and just overall wonderful.
Yeah, it was really well done, and definitely gave it's a lovely voice for the newer generations for sure.
It is, yes.
But yeah, so I guess that's pretty much what we wanted to talk about with Heartstoppers.
Yeah.
So definitely fully recommended by us. If you haven't read the graphic novels or the books or the show, fully go ahead and dive into it, because you're gonna love it. I can't imagine, you know, like Nick and Charlie is just, they're so likable, they're so sweet, and, you know, just overall great characters, and everybody else in the background as well. You know, me, I was talking to you earlier about the graphic novels, you get little tidbits of like the teachers and stuff, and I like that part too. So I thought that was so cute. So, you know, everybody has kind of like a place here, and I think it's really nice.
Yeah.
So but yeah, so I think that's it for Heartstoppers, and I'm about to run out of time here, hold on. And then, so the next series that we're going to be talking about, no, the next book that we're going to be talking about, not series, the next book that we're going to talk about is Evelyn Hugo. So
Hugo.
the seven husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Hugo.
So that's going to be excited. I'm excited to talk about that one and just, you know, discuss that a little bit and all the different parts of it. And
I can't wait.
it should hopefully be a good episode after that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us again for another review. We hope you pick up Heartstoppers. We hope you watch the show, because you're gonna love it if you haven't. And yeah, let us know in the comments if you have any feelings, what you thought, if you read it, if you watched the show, if you love it as much as we do.
Let us
whatever
know.
You feel, let us know. And yeah, I guess we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye.